Going back to the factory default setting, oscillator 1, I will now explore the wave shape. So going from a square wave to, I'm not quite sure what you would call that, but it's an elongated square wave when you look at it. So if I put that somewhere in the middle, vibrato, make sure that for this demonstration, that the modulation wheel will not affect vibrato. Turn off the filter so that all we are going to hear is how the wave shape will be affected by the low frequency oscillator. So I've positioned oscillator 1 in terms of the mix. So we will focus purely on oscillator 1 using the noise shape. And what will affect the noise shape, we are going to assign low frequency oscillator. Now the rate of change affected by the low frequency oscillator will be controlled via the modulation wheel. And again, vibrato, I've placed it to aftertouch so that the modulation wheel will not impact vibrato. So if I play a note, you can hear how the modulation wheel is impacting that sound. If I place the wave shape to what is more like a sine wave, oh no, sorry, that's a white noise. I put it to this sawtooth wave and there is no change with the modulation wheel. So when I choose the wave shape, the modulation wheel is applying more low frequency oscillator onto the wave shape. If I put a filter on that, you can hear how the high frequencies have been deleted. So getting back to our Apocalypse Now task of trying to make a simulated helicopter sound, we are at the beginning stages of potentially getting that sound. Now, the question is, how do we simulate the speed of the helicopter? The rotors speeding up. So we've got our noise shape being affected by low frequency oscillator and the modulation wheel being able to increase the effect of the low frequency oscillator on the wave shape parameter here. I have my filter, which is muffling the sound, and I can change the filter point. But what I want to be able to do is vary the rate of the low frequency oscillator, the actual rate. So if I go to the settings, modulation wheel to impact low frequency oscillator rate. The low frequency oscillator rate will be affected by the modulation wheel, which will also affect how much of the low frequency oscillator is applied to this wave shaping tool. So now you can hear the rate, the low frequency oscillator rate increase as the modulation wheel is moved. So sort of giving us a helicopter-like sound. Now I can change the shape of the LFO. So as you can see, we are on our way to creating this kind of artificial hyper-reality sound of a pseudo helicopter using an analog synthesizer. So the low frequency oscillator rate, if I reduce this, I'm now changing the range, if you like, how the modulation wheel impacts the LFO. So if I really increase this substantially, the other thing I can assign is velocity to affect the cutoff filter. So if I strike the key harder, more frequencies in the higher range will be opened up. Strike the key softer, and the filter is applied to delete the high frequencies. So if I hit the key harder, the filter opens up. I hear more high frequency content. So it's another way of adding variation. So as I'd mentioned before, the low frequency oscillator rate, you can work in hertz or synchronize it to your digital audio workstation.